Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with part 2 of What If Naruto Was a Sin of Wrath. Sorry for the huge break, but exams are right around the corner, so I have to prepare and stuff, so I hope y'all understand. But without any further ado, I hope you guys are going to enjoy the What If.
Three bitches wanna fuck on me, she suck on me, and now your bitch she dripping like a sea, nigga, hold up.
死んだ天性
Talking tough, and nigga, I expose ya. Talking tough, but bitch, I ain't too bolder.
So we last left off with Izuku meeting the new members of the team, Dabi and Toga. He wasn't too happy with them. Yeah, they're here to help, but he and Shigaraki have been doing good together without them. So while Izuku is thinking, Toga walks up to him and licks him on the cheek. Izuku freaks out and says, "Why would you do that?" And Toga just chuckles and says, "I saw a little blood on your cheek. I thought you wouldn't mind if I clean it up." Izuku said, "Okay," and he said, "Shigaraki, come talk to me for a second." So they go off to a corner and Izuku starts saying, "Are you sure these guys are legit? They look kinda like amateurs. That one girl licked me." And Shigaraki said, "Come on dude, don't worry about it, and I saw you looking at her, don't act like you don't like her." Izuku almost instantly went red and punched him playfully and said, "Shut up man." So they laughed for a bit and Izuku said, "Fine, so when are we gonna deal with All Might?" And Shigaraki started to explain the plan. "While we make a distraction at the main gate, you go to the principal's office and take All Might's files for where and when he'll be teaching, and return it to us." After he's finished, he says, "How does that sound?" And Izuku puts up his fist and says, "Sounds like a plan." And they fist bump. So fast forward 2 weeks. During this time, Izuku has just been waiting for his acceptance letter. He and the new members have gotten to know each other a bit, just some small talk here and there. Unlike their first interaction, Izuku's conversation with Toga would always take a sharp 180, from your favorite fruit to the taste of your blood. But Izuku actually found her obsession kind of amusing. Anyways, to the present day, and Izuku is working out when one of Kurogiri's portals opened, and out of it, All For One came out. Izuku quickly dropped his weight and said, "Master, you should have called, there's no need to come this far." And All For One said, "But I have something important for you, Izuku. Congratulations on your entry to UA. Make me proud." And he flicks a disc like a coin into Izuku's hands and walks back through the portal. Izuku looks down at it and it had My Hero Academia etched onto its edge. Izuku placed it on his bed and a hologram of All Might appeared. At the same time, Shigaraki walked in and he saw this hologram of All Might, and without even knowing what it was, he shot beside Izuku to watch. He got there just in time to hear "Welcome to your Hero Academia." Shigaraki was a bit confused what that meant, and Izuku turned to him and said, "I made it into UA." Shigaraki's eyes widened and bear hugged Izuku, saying congrats. And while they were celebrating, Dabi walked in and they both paused, and Shigaraki saw him and quickly dropped Izuku and cleared his throat and said, "Good work. The LOV will do good with the spies on the inside," and walked out, passing Dabi, who was still confused but let it go. So fast forward another week to Izuku's first day at UA. During this week leading up to this, Izuku and Toga had more conversations with each other. Actually, they got along pretty well. Well, after Izuku recovered from the whole licking incident, they got to talk and realized she was a pretty good person. And I struggled to say good because we all know Toga. She's psycho, but Izuku will have to learn it the hard way. But anyways, Izuku goes to UA in his new uniform and makes his way to class. He does struggle to find it, but while he's doing that, Izuku takes a mental note of all the hallways and rooms in the school. So he got to his class, and as soon as he got in, he heard a familiar voice. Izuku looks towards the back of the class and sees the good-for-nothing Bakugo. He balls his fist, but he knows he has to calm down because he can't take care of him just yet. So Izuku goes to the back of the class and sits by the window, regular main character stuff. So after around another minute of Ida and Bakugo arguing, Aizawa has had enough. He gets up like he's cranky, he's like, man, can I get some sleep? So he gets up and tells everyone to shut the hell up or they'll all get expelled. And everyone turns silent. And Ida said, who are you? And Aizawa said, I'm your homeroom teacher. And Ida, like, he was scared. He didn't want to make a bad impression on the first day. So he quickly sat down. And Aizawa waited another 5 seconds until the class was completely silent and began to explain what they'll be doing. So like normal, he explains the whole Quirk apprehension test and tells everyone to meet him outside after changing. But Ochako actually stops him and asks, what about orientation? And Aizawa, with his usual bland face, says, those are dumb formalities. Real heroes train every chance they can get. So as I said, meet me outside. Ochako heard the sternness in his voice and got up said time to go to the locker rooms. So everyone gets changed and outside Aizawa says, I'll have the person with the most points in the entrance exams demonstrate. Bakugo is like, oh word? And starts walking up, but Aizawa points to Izuku and calls him up. Bakugo pauses and looks at this guy like, who even is this guy? But every time he gets close to him, he feels a sort of demonic aura coming off him. So Izuku takes the ball and Aizawa tells him to throw it using his quirk as hard as possible. Izuku got ready and he was aiming to go orbital. So he drew his hand all the way back and threw it as hard as possible, breaking the sound barrier as soon as it left his hand and flew into outer space. Aizawa's eyes widened. He looked down at the monitor and it said error. Aizawa was honestly shocked because that was pure strength. He didn't sense Izuku activate anything. But he collected himself and said, impressive Kaido. Also, Kaido is going to be Izuku's alias. I mean, if you have any better name, leave it in the comment. But the last time I asked for a name, they were all trash. So I might just stick with Kaido. Anyways, everyone in the class was blown away by Izuku's performance. The Quirk apprehension test continues with Izuku breaking record after record, some set by All Might himself. So Bakugo was watching Izuku the entire time and it's like, he reminds him of someone but he just can't place his finger on it. But anyways, Izuku goes on to dominate the test and places number 1 overall. Ochako actually comes over to congratulate him. He was wondering why she was being so friendly but didn't mind, she's probably just a kind person. So Aizawa had everyone return to class, and while walking back, Ochako and Izuku struck up another conversation, just talking about stuff like their past. And by the way, All For One gave Izuku a whole script he should follow about his whole life story, and he made sure to memorize every single line. So the day goes on without much incident till lunchtime. During lunch, Ida, Uraraka, and Kirishima all have lunch together and Izuku's eating his favorite katsudon. But as he took his first bite, the school alarms went off and people started panicking. They've never been in a sort of drill. So they start running around to the emergency exit and Izuku and his group run over to it as well. But Izuku manages to sneak off. Due to the panic, everyone ran to the emergency exit, leaving the hallways empty. And this was his time to make a move. So Izuku memorized where his Nezu office was and he goes there and he checks the door to see if it's open and, in his luck, the door was unlocked. He slowly opened it and walked inside. Izuku was grinning ear to ear. He walked around to the corner of the office to the filing cabinet labeled teaching schedule and Izuku started flipping through. It was exactly what he came for. He took All Might's file and quickly pulled out his notebook and started copying the information because it would look sus if a file went missing. So it was a lot to write down, and before he could even finish, he started hearing people talking coming from down the hall. He acted quickly and shoved the file back in, making sure everything was like he came in and saw. So Izuku walked out casually and locked the door behind him. Two seniors who were walking past stopped and said, "Is everything alright?" And Izuku had morphed his face into something different so, he wouldn't be recognized. And he responded in a deeper voice and said, "Yeah, everything's fine. I'm heading to the emergency exit." The boy said, "Well, alright, the name's Mirio, by the way." And they both extended their hands to, shake. And said, "Nice to meet you, Mirio. I'm Naruto." And Mirio is like, "Oh, like that one anime character?" And Izuku nervously laughed and said, "Yeah." And Mirio chuckled and said, "Damn, your parents must hate you." Anyways, man, I'm off. And Izuku morphs his face back quickly and runs back to the lunchroom. So by now, the situation was under control due to Ida and Ochako's quirk combo, Ida getting above the crowd and explaining what happened. So everyone calmed down, and eventually the teachers arrived to tell everyone what happened with the news reporters, and that they just have the rest of the day off. Hearing this, everyone was obviously excited. They get a half day off from school, and quickly got their stuff to leave. So while packing, Ochako turned to Izuku and said, "Hey, where did you go in all the chaos? It's like I couldn't find you." Izuku said, "Oh, I just got lost a bit, but some seniors helped me out." Ochako didn't question it, and they walked out to the school gate, talking together. But Izuku had to go in a different direction than Ochako, so they said their goodbyes. On top of a building across the road from Yue, a girl was watching, Toga. She saw how friendly Izuku was being with this girl, and she swears if she ever lays a finger on him, she's as good as dead. Toga was caught up in her thoughts that she didn't even realize she lost Izuku. She started looking around and couldn't find him, but from behind her, someone tapped her shoulder. Toga's reflex kicked in and whipped out a knife to slash Izuku, but luckily it missed. And Toga realized who it was and calmed down. "Oh, Izuku, how did you get up here?" Izuku said, "I should be asking why you're stalking me." And Toga laughed nervously and said, "Well, I was actually making sure you got to the base alright. You never know what those hero students are capable of." Izuku sighed and said, "Let's just get back to base. Beat you there." And Izuku ran off. Toga knows she doesn't even stand a chance, so she doesn't try to catch up, but she runs behind him. So he makes it back to base and immediately tells Shigaraki he got the information. Shigaraki was so excited, but before the celebration could last, from the shadows of the room, All For One spoke. "Good work, Izuku. You too, Tomura." They both quickly bowed to him, and All For One continued. "Shigaraki, I approve of your plan, but if it fails, I have a plan of my own with Dr. Ichiko, so don't disappoint." Shigaraki professed, I won't, master," but when they looked up, he was gone. So the next day at UA, Izuku was in class waiting when All Might bust through the door saying, "Coming through the door like a normal person." Everyone was excited. It's All Might. All Might looked over the room to get a good look at everyone, then said, "Now class, Aizawa left me with another test for you." Everyone groaned, but All Might went on to explain all the rules. Some people were actually starting to get interested, like excited, and one of them being Bakugo. He can finally put this Kaido guy in his place. So everyone puts on their hero outfit they designed, except Izuku. He actually didn't design any costume, so he just wears the usual PE gear. So All Might starts to pick the teams at random, and he chooses Izuku versus both Bakugo and Ida. Everyone was confused why it was a 1v2, but All Might explained that this was just a simple test. Izuku scored very high on the entrance exam, even beating his record, so he wants to see Izuku's strength firsthand. No one could argue with him, they were all curious as well. So Bakugo and Ida got into the building to set up. Meanwhile, Izuku was just standing by, chilling, until the signal was given, and he went into the mock building. Izuku's sword Lost Vein appeared, and he had been working on a move, and this will be the perfect time to try it out. So he goes upstairs and gets to the 3rd floor when he starts hearing explosions coming right towards him. At the end of the hall he was in, the wall explodes and from the smoke, Bakugo appears. And with something to prove, he runs towards Izuku saying, "You're so weak, I won't even have to use my quirk on you." But to Izuku, this was a child's play. Bakugo tried to fight using kicks or using his gauntlets to hit Izuku, but nothing landed. Izuku had a perfect mastery of many martial arts and started to taunt Bakugo saying, "Is that all? Come on, my mom's stronger than this. Wow, I can't believe they're letting people like you in." And all of this began to eat away at Bakugo's fragile ego, and he said, "Oh yeah? Well, we'll see who's laughing now." And he jumps back and pulls both pins and says, "Die!" The explosion goes off, flying towards Izuku, but he smirks and says, "Full counter." Using his sword, Izuku slices the attack away, and it went right back at Bakugo with twice the power. He didn't even realize what happened until it was too late. It hit Bakugo, sending him through the concrete wall and into an adjacent building. Izuku was trying his hardest to hold back his sadistic smile. One day he's gonna kill that bastard. But this test is what is important now. So Izuku quickly runs upstairs, and before he opens the door, he says to himself, "Let's just finish this quickly." And a mark appears on his forehead, and in this form, Izuku had to be careful. His control of his own body is limited, so he may accidentally kill him. As Izuku comes into the door, Ida boosts into a roundhouse kick, but Izuku grabs his legs right out of the air and begins squeezing down, putting an immense pressure on his bones. Ida started screaming in pain. All Might and the students in the observation room were starting to get worried, but Izuku dropped him and in a blur ran towards the missile, touching it, winning the competition. And All Might said, "Hero team win." Izuku and Ida returned to the observation room while some bots recovered Bakugo and brought him to Recovery Girl. All Might just didn't know what to think of Izuku. It was like he had some sort of strength quirk, but how did he do that thing with Bakugo's explosion? It just doesn't make sense. So All Might was going to keep a close eye on Izuku. All Might asked the class who was the MVP of the battle, and it was a unanimous decision. They all chose, of course, the Sin of Wrath himself, Izuku. So after this, everyone else does their fights like normal, and Bakugo eventually recovers. But now he has a growing hatred towards Kaido. Now on to the next school day. In class, Aizawa came out to announce the trip to the USJ. This will be the rescue training, of course, where they will work with the Hero 13 to practice, well, rescue training. So after class, Izuku walked up to Aizawa and said, "Sensei, I don't think I'll be able to make it. Recently, a family member of mine died." And Aizawa was very sympathetic with Izuku. He told him, there would be tons of hero trainings throughout the year, so missing out on one isn't too much of a big deal. And with that, everyone went home to prepare for the hero training on the next day. What could Izuku be up to? Find out next time, because that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked it, like, and if you like my content in general, subscribe. It's free and it helps your boy out. So I'll see you guys in the next What If.